Immorality, anti-Semitism, and replacement theology have rendered much of Christianity as unbiblical, mystic, and on the road to extinction. Welcome to the Heartland Connection, where we equip Christians to walk in the truth of God's Word, to support the land and people of Israel, and to stand boldly in their faith. I have personally learned so much about God and His Word from our Jewish friends here in Israel, and I'm honored to have my good Orthodox Jewish friend joining me here on the program every week. Rabbi Yonadav Zar will be sharing great insights into the Torah from a Jewish perspective. Welcome, Rabbi Yonadav Zar. It's good to have you here this morning.
Good morning.
All right, so today's Torah portion is Parashat Chayei Sarah, which that Sarah is kind of hard for me to say because that's a very common English name, Sarah, how we would say it. So Rabbi Yonadav, how do you say the Torah portion this week? How would you pronounce it?
Chayei Sarah, just like you said.
Sarah.
Chayei Sarah.
Very nice. All right, so which means the life of Sarah.
That's right.
So there's a lot in this week's portion, so much. I'm really looking forward to digging into this week. So our first question here for you, Rabbi Yonadav, is why was finding a burial place for Sarah so important to Avraham? It seems like he's really, he's finding something really, really important. He's spending a lot of money and really finding this place a really good, nice place to bury his wife. Why was that such a big deal? Why was that so important and a priority for Avraham?
It seemed like that the people of Hebron wanted Abraham to stay just a guest, just a visitor. Mm. And Abraham knew that he had to inherit this land. Mm. And that was the first time that he has the excuse to put root in the land. So he wanted to purchase it. He wanted to be the owner, not just a guest that use the land of the host. He wanted to be the one who owned the land. So he insists to buy it, to purchase it. And they try to tell him, okay, use it however you want. We allow you to use it. No, he wanted to be the owner, not to be a guest. And of course, we have a sentence says, the deed of the ancestors is signed to the sons. What Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov did, it's signed for us. We have to deepen our roots in this land. Amen. We have to purchase it. We have to be the owners, not just guests. Not, let's say, that someone allows us to enter the Temple Mount. No, we have to be the owners. It's us. We can allow another to be our guests, but not to feel like we are the guests. That's not good. Mm-hmm. And after we say that the deed of the fathers is signed to the sons, it's not only sign, but also it's support, it's help. After we know what the fathers did, mm-hmm. we have the help to do it ourselves. It says the land comfortable for his sons to be captured. When Abraham did so significant Indeed, the land is comfortable to us to purchase it, to capture it.
Well, that's really good, and I think it's really important for everybody that's listening to understand too that that there's a lot of crazy information out there about who owns the land, whose land is it, and obviously we read about in Genesis 12 a couple weeks ago, and saw there that God said, "I'm going to bring you to a land. I'm going to give it to you and your descendants," and that God spoke that in a covenant. With Avram, that this was going to be his and his descendants. But we also see situations like this in this week's Torah portion where the land was actually purchased. It wasn't like they just came in and fought wars and were violent and did the way that the media would present Israel today. But actually these guys came in much like what has happened here in modern Israel, where they came in and they tried to purchase the land. Rabbi Yonadav's father was very involved in coming in and purchasing and buying pieces of property here in the heartland of Israel, and just like he said, following in the footsteps of the forefathers. But I also want to point out that this wasn't the only place that was bought. We also have when Jacob came into land, he bought a parcel of land in right here, right in Shechem, in Shechem. And we also have other purchases. We have King David purchasing the threshing floor where the temple ended up being built. We have Jeremiah purchasing the field in Anatot. Are there other instances?
Of his cousin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of his cousin, just before the destruction.
Yes, and yeah, which is very significant. In Jeremiah, he says he puts the deed inside of the clay pot and he buries it, and he says there will be vineyards and planted again. So that one's very significant for us too. And working here in the vineyards, he says there will be, even though this destruction is coming, after the destruction there will be restoration, and we will see life again in the land of Israel. And so what's interesting?
Not only vineyards, but not only vineyards, but also he said, lands will purchased in this land.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we see it's a very important thing that Avraham started here, that was supposed to carry on through all his descendants to come in and to purchase the land and to take ownership of it and to pass it on to their children and their grandchildren. So what's really amazing about all these places, that all the places that I just mentioned, including the one in this Torah portion this week that Avraham purchased, every single one of those are in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, which the media would call the West Bank. So all these places that I just mentioned that were purchased by these people from Avraham and his descendants going forward were actually in this area that is now being hotly contested on whose it is or who owns it. Every single one of those places was actually purchased right here in this land. And if you go back and look at where the covenants were made, the covenant was made with Avraham, with Abraham here, right here on Alon Moreh, and then in all these places throughout Judea and Samaria, right in this covenant. So this is where it was purchased. This is where God said, this is the land. So I just want to make sure that our listeners understand that this wasn't just anywhere in Israel. This was actually right here in the place that's supposedly, occupied or people are trying to figure out who actually owns it. So right here in the Bible, it's very clear. This belongs to Abraham and his descendants forever. And when they come in and are able to take ownership of it, then God's purposes can be fulfilled in the world. So I just wanted to make that really clear to our listeners that this is the exact location. When you hear West Bank, you need to hear the heartland of Israel that was purchased by Avraham and his descendants and was given to them by covenant from God. So when you hear West Bank, that's what you need to understand what they're talking about. Okay. Wow, this is really good. So our next question here is kind of interesting. We have Avraham telling Eliezer to go and take a wife from Avraham's relatives. And so when I was looking at this, I thought, how come it says specifically, Avraham tells Eliezer, do not take a wife from the Canaanites. You need to go and to his relatives and find a wife from there. So my question for you is, why was that? Why did Eliezer need to go away? Because from what I understand, his relatives weren't necessarily following God either. So what was the difference between the Canaanites and him taking a wife from his relatives?
Okay, this subject is very important, and I like to talk about it because the marriage is the power to continue to the next generations. It's the power of the life. Someone can think that his food is the power of the life, or he's joyful with I don't know, to see movies, or I don't know. This is the power of the life. No, the marriage, the son, the children, this is the power of the life. Amen. So we can learn from this story a lot of advices about our marriage. The first, like Avraham told Eliezer, the roots of the people, the tradition is very important, because even if someone is personally less righteous, but the family is good, so he has it in his blood. He can fix himself. And someone, even if he is righteous, but his roots are bad, it's much difficult to change it. That's why he told him, don't take wife from the Canaanites, even if there are Aner, Eshkol, and Mamre that were righteous, because their fathers, their sons, you don't know where it will go. So he told him, go to my family. I know my family. They have good roots. But on the other hand, we have to remember that Avraham told him, if the woman will not go after you to the land, so don't take her. Don't bring my son there, but find him wife from the Canaanites, from Aner, Eshkol, and Mamre. So we can understand that the choice of the land is more important than the roots of the family. Because you can change your roots. You know, you can have great roots, but you can't be the root to the next generation. So it's difficult, but you can change it. So on the one hand, you better find the good roots, but on the other hand, you can change your root. You can decide, choose to choose the land, to choose to come to the land. It's very significant. The land is more important than the roots. If you can see one who has great roots, great family, but choose to separate from the land, you have to prefer the one who choose the land.
Wow, that's so significant, and I think something that's a little bit hard to understand from somebody from the nations at first, because it's like, okay, God created the entire world, and He said it was very good, and like it's all very special. He created it with it with His word and with His own hand. You know, He fashioned the entire world. And so to see God put such an emphasis, and Avraham put such an emphasis on that one particular place, to say that if she's not willing to come, then it's off. They can't be married. is really interesting. Like basically, we have God telling Abraham in Genesis 12, you have to go to this particular place. You have to leave your family, your father's house, and go to this land. And then here we see that they have to be brought there. And then throughout the scriptures, the children of Israel were in Egypt. They could not stay there and fulfill their calling that God has in them to bring redemption to the world. They had to come back, even though Egypt was basically conquered. When they left, all the plagues and everything happened. I mean, they could have said, hey, we have the river Nile. We have such a good place here. We'll just stay right here and build a kingdom for God in Egypt. But God said, no, you have to go to the promised land, back to the land of Israel. And I think that's really significant, even in the exile, to Babylon, and the children of Israel had to come back. We see in the prophet Daniel talks about they coming back. And so now, in our times, right today, we see the Jewish people coming back to this specific place. And so I think it's really important for us as people from the nations to realize that God's plan of redemption for the world is very much tied to this specific geographical location in the land of Israel. And so I think I just want to bring that up to everybody that's listening. Like, this is such an important key to get when you're reading the Bible and reading about the story of the Jewish people. It's also about the specific land of Israel that God chose and that God brought his people to in order to shine a light out from there into the nations. So I just wanted to really nail that point, that this land, this specific spot, is very, very important in God's plans for the world and to bring redemption. So I think that's really, really important. And I guess another question here, you're talking about marriage and how important it is and how it's something that you feel like is a topic that you enjoy talking about. Can you share with us anything else about marriage and what we can see from this story of Eliezer going to get a wife for Rebecca?
Yes.
A wife for Isaac, sorry.
We can learn for Isaac. We can learn that not only the coming to the land is important, and without it there is no marriage, but also that the test of Eliezer was that she is kind. And sometimes you think, I must go and find my wife on my own, myself. No one can bring me wife to marry.
Right.
No, Eliezer can go too far to Aram Naharaim to bring wife to Yitzchak. Why? And if Yitzchak will not love her, no, he can love her. It's very strong say. You can decide to love. If the woman is good, is fit, you can decide to love. So he can go there, and the test wasn't good because you don't know who will come. If she's a slave, you can take her for Yitzchak. So the test was wrong, but the core of the test, that she has to be kind, that's right. She has to come to the land, that's right. There are a lot of stories, many stories about Jews in the exile that married just because the man and the woman wanted to come to the land. So they didn't look for another fit. Just because they want to go to the land. Because the ideal of the people, their mind, their enthusiasm about the Torah, about following God, this is the important subject. So Eliezer can bring wife to Yitzchak. It's not how she looks like. It's about her heart.
Wow, that's really good. And I think maybe that's kind of what you were talking about a second ago too, about the roots. Would you say, how would you, maybe we could expound on that a little bit more? What exactly are the roots? When I hear you saying that, I think that you're saying that like the vision. So maybe they can have actions that are righteous, but you don't know what their vision is, like what their long-term, thought is. And that's what I see in a lot of people getting married and stuff. And to me, one of the biggest questions is are they on the same vision? Are they on the same track? Do they want to follow God? Do they have the same like foundational vision of following God and bringing about His kingdom on this earth? Would you say that, or is that how you would describe the roots that you're talking about, or how would you describe the roots?
I think it's also, like you said, the vision, but also the fundaments of the life. It's like what she will do when will be a crisis. There will be crisis. So what she will do, she do in that case? She has to be with good fundamentals that know that in crisis you take your basic fundamentals and hold them. It's like a history of family or people that has the base that they are regular to behave. You don't have to always think what's the next step. You have to think, but even you don't think, you have the borders of the right way. So you can build it without, but it's like the what you will do when you wake from sleeping. What's the simple option that you will take, because it's your family, it's your base, it's your roots. It's not always, but let's say it's like statistic. In most of the cases, in this family, they will choose the right way.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
we are people. We are not statistics, but the statistic is very important.
Yeah, it helps us.
And
it helps us to make decisions. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very good. I think that's also, like, marriage and family is definitely something that we're very, very passionate about and encourage. And I think this is there's definitely a lot here in this story where we can see, and I think that's, it's so important to check and see, okay, is this person, as encourage all of you guys, if you're pursuing marriage, which we strongly encourage you to pursue, that you would be serious about it. Look into, okay, what person has the same vision, which person has the core values of faithfulness and these things that you can run with, and go and pursue that. And we've pursued a way to do that through betrothal, which is kind of a whole another topic that we've seen to be very fruitful with the relationships in our circles. would definitely encourage you to take a look at that. My brother Braden actually has a ministry called Love and Purity Ministries, where he talks a lot about that, encouraging people with relationships. I think there's a book called Betrothed that you could look at, and also learn some of the things that we've learned through that, and a lot of things that we've incorporated from Jewish tradition, and looking at it and saying, okay, what are the important things? Because I think that's really what it is like in today's society, it's just everything's taken very lightly. It's not taken serious. It's just whatever feels good, whatever seems fun in that moment, and it's not serious. And I think that's a big part of what we've found in the betrothal process is, okay, you need to take it seriously. You need to get married, you need to find a wife, and then you need to make a covenant that's real and strong. And like Rabbi Yonadav said, that you can hold on to even in the crisis moments, even in the times when things aren't going very well. You can stay faithful and strong, and have marriages that will last and that will bring children and bring a blessing into the world. So definitely encourage everybody to look into that, study into that, and see where God will lead you through His Word and through this righteous way. All right, so we're running out of time here. Rabbi Yonadav, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I want just to remind that when Rivka came to the tent of Sarah, it's written that Yitzchak loved her. So
yes,
the love can follow the choice. It's not end when you get married, but it begins.
Right, that's when it starts.
When the marriage.
When it should start.
Yes, start.
Yes, very good. All right, thank you so much, Rabbi Yonadav. It's so good studying together with you every week. I really enjoy it. So thank you for sharing with us and for spreading the light of God's Word to the nations. And thank you guys for listening. If you've been encouraged by this, if you've gotten something out of this and learned from it, then please share it with your friends and family, like and subscribe, and please send us feedback. If you've got questions, or if you're looking at next week's Torah portion and you've got some questions you would like to see answered, you can send me an email at zach@hayovel.com. It's ZAC@hayovel.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. May God bless you as you continue embracing the everlasting truths of God's holy word. Shabbat Shalom from the beautiful, exceedingly good land of Israel.